Hey everyone, welcome to the community call for June 2023. We'll keep this one a little bit short because I must admit I'm a little bit under the weather, but that shouldn't be too much of an issue. I just want to tell you a little bit about the structure of what we're going to talk about today, and then we can jump straight in. We're going to start off by talking about Komiser and what has been shipped in June and which is the latest minor version. We'll then move on to talking about the latest features and improvements and bugs that have been addressed on the Tailwarden platform, reaching the version 2.0.8, which is the one that we're on right now. Then we'll have a quick look at the events overview, what has been covered this month, and then we'll talk about the speakers and topics that will be approached for July. After that, we'll just move on to the community updates, touch on the content that's been published, and then plans for July. So yeah, let's jump straight in. As most of you already know, and we've shipped 2 minor versions in June, even though today, more than likely, and Mohammed will correct me if I'm wrong a little bit later on, I think we might ship 3.0.20, but up until now the latest version is 0.19, and that includes added support for AWS RDS snapshots and proxy collection for comprehensive data. We also shipped the custom webhooks. This was at the beginning of the month. This was shipped pretty much single-handedly by Komiser maintainer C.O.M. And this feature has also come with 2 bits of content that you'd be able to find on the blog, which is right here. And then we also have on the YouTube channel a comprehensive hands-on tutorial that you can follow to get to start using the custom webhooks as soon as possible. And just so you know where to find them, the custom webhooks are applied to the custom view level. You'll find it in alerts. Instead of choosing the Slack integration, you can now choose the webhook, and you can apply it either to a cost alert or to a resource alert. But again, you'll find all the information in the blog or on YouTube, and if you have any kind of more in-depth questions in particular, there's nothing better than asking the author himself. So reach out to C.O.M. I'm sure he'll be happy to help you out there. Okay, so improvements that we shipped. We enhanced the AWS CloudWatch cost calculation for better resource cost management, and there was also a bug that was affecting the AWS EC2 cost calculation. So that was also addressed in these last 2 minor upgrades. Later on, we'll talk about what's been done specifically in this month that hasn't been shipped yet with regards to Komiser. But now I'm just going to move on to Tailwarden, and Mohammed will help us out here and tell us about the features that were shipped. Mohammed, I don't know if you have permission to speak. Oh, there we go.
Yes, cool. So this month and the last couple of weeks, we have been improving the onboarding. You have seen on the last community call that we have now a new onboarding.
Sorry,
workflow
Mohammed,
that makes it.
if you could just make the Tailwarden screen just slightly bigger. Perfect.
Okay, how about now?
That's better, yeah.
Cool. So I was saying that we made a new onboarding workflow to make it easier for people to create an account. And in the last few weeks, we have improved the AWS integration. So before, as a Tailwarden user, you had to connect your AWS account by providing the credentials, which are basically that AWS access key and secret key. However, this authentication method is not like the most secure, and when it comes to managing those credentials for the user, and also for the user to be able to rotate those credentials every couple of months for security reasons. So for that, we have now a new way on how you can connect your infrastructure to Tailwarden, and that's by using cross-account role, which basically by creating an IAM role in your AWS account and then establishing a trust relationship with Tailwarden AWS account so that we can securely use your IAM role and fetch the data and allow you to uncover insights about your infrastructure on Tailwarden. So this is what I'm going to show you on this demo. And later on, I will show you also another feature that we have been working on in the last few days, which is to get the cost at the resource level for AWS. So first, you can connect your AWS account either through the onboarding step or while you have connected or created an account already on Tailwarden. So I'm going to show you how you can do that through the onboarding. So I'm not going to go through all the steps because that's something you have seen in the last community call. So the first step is basically to set up your workspace. The second step is just to personalize your workspace by answering the question about why you want to use Tailwarden so that we can improve the platform for you in the future. And this is where the magic happens now, is that instead of connecting your AWS account through the credentials, which are the AWS access key and secrets key, you see now that we have a bunch of new ways on how you can connect your account. And this new way is to create an IAM role. This IAM role can be created in different ways. So we made it as simple as we could to make it easier for technical people and also non-technical people to connect their infrastructure. So either by deploying a CloudFormation stack or by using an AWS CLI. So for instance, you have an AWS CLI command that you can deploy in your terminal, and that will create the IAM role and establish the connection. Or you can do it manually if you know how to use the AWS console. So good luck with that. You can create your IAM role manually by following this form. So we have given you all the needed information. Otherwise, the quickest way to connect your AWS account is via CloudFormation, and this is what I'm going to show you on this demo. So first, you need to give a name to your account that you want to connect. So on this demo, I'm going to connect my Sandbox AWS account. And then here you have a button which is called LAN stack, which will basically deploy a CloudFormation stack on the AWS account that you want to connect. So here I'm already on my AWS Sandbox account. The only thing I need to do is just to give this stack the permissions to deploy the resources. And those resources basically are an IAM role that will be created on that AWS account. And this IAM role will allow us afterward as a Tailwarden to fetch the data, of course, on read-only access. So it's going to take a couple of seconds for the stack to be deployed. But once the stack is fully deployed, we'll be notified in real time and we'll be able to establish the connection. So as you can see, for now it's still looking for the role because the stack is still being in progress. So the policy was already created. Now it's creating the role. So in a few we should have the connection. So now the IAM role was created, and now if I go back to the interface in a few seconds, the connection will be stopped, as you can see, and now the role was detected, and we are ready to go to connect our AWS account. So I'm going to click on connect account. And that's pretty much it. Of course, I can invite team members, but that's something I can do later on. And you have now a successful confirmation message saying that Tailwarden is now fetching your data, and you have this banner on the top that says so. And you will be notified by email when the fetching is complete. You can see there are already a couple of resources that has been fetched already. And now I have all my resources that were fetched through this connection that took me just a couple of seconds. And of course, I can add as many AWS accounts, GCP accounts, or other cloud providers that we support to my dashboard by following the same process. So this is the main feature that we have worked on in the last few weeks. Another thing that we have implemented recently is to be able to give you the cost at the resource level for AWS resources. So like the purpose of Tailwarden is not only to give you like one single place where you can manage all your cloud resources, but also allows you to uncover insights about those resources. And one of the main insights that you want to bring to Tailwarden is the cost aspect of the infrastructure. And that's why we are now introducing this feature that allows you to enable the cost at the resource level. And this is done by going to the granular cost, and then you can enable this granular cost feature, which basically will allow you to have the cost at the resource level. And the cost will reflect exactly what's the cost that incurred on your AWS account. This feature uses like the AWS cost and usage feature, which basically a feature that AWS provide to all their customers. You can enable this feature easily by going to your AWS account, going to the billing dashboard, and then you will have the cost and user reports. And once this is done, you can create like a report. So basically, this report will be an S3 bucket that you configure. And within that S3 bucket, AWS every day it will push like CSV files with a bunch of data points, like dozens, if not like thousands of data points. And those data points like reflect the cost and usage of what you do on your AWS account. And this is basically what we use for this feature. Once you enable that feature, you can go back here. You can provide the S3 bucket that you have configured where AWS pushes the data, and then we will be giving you the cost at the resource level. So I'm gonna show you how this feature works. So I have already enabled or created a report. So I'm not gonna show you how the report can be created, but if you want uh, like uh, like a demo on how to create a report, you can go to the help center of Tailwarden, go to the QoS Insights, and you have a tutorial that explains how to enable or create a report on AWS. So for this demo, I'm gonna take into consideration that the report already exists, which is this one that I have already created. So now I'm gonna go back to the form. I'm gonna copy this data, and then I need to copy also the folder where the data is stored in. But before enabling this feature, I need to give Tailwarden access to this S3 bucket. If you remember, the sandbox account that I have connected doesn't allow Tailwarden to read what is on the S3 buckets for security reasons. We only fetch like cloud resources. We don't read what is on S3 buckets or databases. But here, since this S3 bucket is specifically dedicated to the billing reports, we can allow Tailwarden to fetch that data from that S3 bucket. So to do so, I need to go to the IAM role that I have created with the CloudFormation that I have used to connect this AWS account. And then I need to create an inline policy that will give me access to this S3 bucket. So I have already a template that I'm going to use for this policy. So I'm just going to paste this here, and I just need to replace the bucket name and the prefix with the S3 bucket where the data is stored in. So I'm going to just copy and paste this here, and we do the same here. And now I can give this policy a name. So this policy is about allowing Tailwarden to read the cost and usage report data. So now the IAM role that is used to connect this sandbox account have like the permission that allows it to like read the cloud resources, but also an additional permission in case you want to have the cost at the resource level. This is the permission to add. So now I have the permission. I can now go back to the form. I can click on save changes, and we will start fetching the data. So the data can take some time to be processed, since you could have like thousands of CSV files. But I'm gonna just force the update so that you can start seeing like some cost insight on the inventory. So I will go to the inventory, and as you can see now, I have already now the cost at the resource level. And this is represents the cost that of your cloud resources that you can get with the AWS Explorer. Just like now you can get it at the resource level. So now I can use, for instance, the filters to see the resources that are driven the cost. For instance, the resources that cost me more than $0, and I have like already 11 resources. Most of them are S3 buckets, and of course I can now create like a view to track those resources. So I will call it like expensive resources. I will keep the view for myself for now. And now you have a custom view with all the resources of your AWS account that cost you money. So those are the major features that we have shipped in the last few weeks. There are other improvements and bug fixes. If you want to test out this, feel free to ping me and be more than happy to give you access to it. And later on today, we'll be doing an announcement of those features so that you can have the full changelog if you want to see the other improvements and fixes that were included. And that's pretty much it. Feel free if you have any questions.
I just have two quick questions there. Once the cost and usage reports is enabled, the cost that shows up is that the cost of the resource from the beginning of the month, or is that the whole life of the resource?
It's from the beginning of the month, so it's up to date monthly cost. But later on, for instance, on the dashboard, I will share my screen.
For sure.
Can you give me access to share my screen?
Yeah.
So this is like the monthly cost, but you can also get like the evolution of the costs from the cost explorer. You can apply like group the data by different like filters and even choose the period that you want. And in the upcoming days, we are going also to add a custom date picker so that you can specify the custom date range that you want, and you will be able to see the cost of a particular resource or a view for a certain period. But for the inventory, what we show here is the up-to-date monthly cost.
And just to be clear, the cost that we see at the end, so at the bottom where we can compare with different months, we only start getting cost data from the moment that we enable the cost and usage reports, right?
Yes, exactly. So the history of like the costs is fetched from the moment you have enabled that cost and usage. So for instance, if you have already this feature enabled on your AWS account, and I think that's something you should have because it brings more transparency to what, for instance, AWS Cost Explorer can get you in terms of information. And if you have enabled that feature, like for instance, 1 year ago, we will be able to get you like the data of the costs since like 1 year ago. So it's from the moment that you have enabled that feature.
Perfect. Yeah. So I think it's going to be pretty imperative to remind users or let users let them be aware that the sooner that they enable the cost and usage reports, the more value they'll get from Tailwarden. Great. And just the last thing, just to be completely transparent, if I'm not mistaken, the cost and usage reports don't incur any cost for the enabler, but there is just a cost that is attached to the S3 bucket that is created, right? So just for people to be aware of that.
Yeah, like there's no cost for enabling that feature. The only cost that you could have, and again, it depends on how much like money you spend on a monthly basis. Like it's the total size of the CSV files, even though like they are compressed, but they can get quickly like huge. That's why like we recommend like setting up like some lifecycle policies to archive the old data because it's not needed, because once we get that data, it's stored on our side, so you don't need to keep that data on your side. Maybe you need just to keep like the last 3 months or something, like depending on your like on your company policies when it comes to storage of data. But you don't need to have that data like sitting on like the default S3 type. You can like move it to Glacier or something with lifecycle policies.
Perfect. That's great. I think that puts the onus on maybe on me to add to the documentation and maybe recommend some Tailwarden recommended best practices around life cycling or life cycle policies applied to the cost and usage reports. Because maybe there might be some people that might think that, if I want all the historic data, I'm going to need to keep those huge reports in those huge CSV files in S3, when really that's not necessary.
Yeah, for sure. And I think even on the AWS config for the feature, you can specify if you want to keep the file or override the file. So that also reduces. But to be honest, like, it's very rare when like the size of that S3 bucket can be huge, because the files are already compressed. But as a rule of thumb, you need to have a lifecycle policy anyway, because you don't need to keep the price in for more than 6 months.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. Yeah.
As we can already provide you that with Tailwarden.
Exactly. Great. Cheers. Okay, so moving on to the events overview. This month we had the 2 monthly events, the AMA session and the virtual workshop. The virtual workshop was with Kubernetes director at Canonical, Alex Jones. We talked about Kate's GPT, and we also touched on different aspects of multi-cloud implementations and architectures. We also talked a good bit about artificial intelligence and how that can and how that will evolve in our sector. If you want to check out the recording, it's here. I also had an AMA yesterday with Isovalent community developer Bill Mulligan. As I said, the intro is still missing, so I will upload that recording today. This is just the promo video from that session. And also just a short reminder about the newest ritual, the newest event that's been added to our calendar, which most of you already know, but this is mainly for people watching potentially afterwards. We now have a weekly Komiser weekly meeting. It happens every Friday, and it's a meeting to align the contributors that are actively working potentially in working groups, or that are looking to find what quick issues they might want to start working on, or just bring any doubts on any issues that they're having problems with. So be sure to first of all, be sure to subscribe to the public calendar so you don't miss any of those events, and we'll be happy to see you there also at the Komiser Weekly. So quickly going over to the events for July, we're also going to have 2 main events, the AMA and virtual workshop. The virtual workshop that will take place, if I'm not mistaken, on let me just get the date right here. It will take place on the 21st of July. Will be the topic will be on Wasplang and developing full stack web apps faster. This will be hosted by a really good friend of mine. His name is Vince Kanger, and he's the community developer at Wasplang. And potentially in the future, we might even collaborate to build some apps with Wasplang and then monitor them with Komiser. So really happy to have that coming on the 21st, and we'll also have the visual assets and the uploaded events for that soon. And then shortly after, we're also going to have, on the 27th of July, we're going to have an AMA with Ankur Tyagi. And the content, or the topic that we're going to cover, is how technical writing can become a critical or a pivotal skill for any developer. Ankur is a very experienced thought leader in the technical writing scene. He has a lot to say, and really looking forward to talking with him. Okay, so let's just get back so I don't forget anything here. So that's the summary of the events, the upcoming events. Community updates, we had some continued work from Avinesh on the resource dependency graph, a lot of great work being done there. Philip has been working very diligently on the onboarding wizard. I think there'll be updates quite soon. Contributors like Kunal Verma have reached out to contribute on content creation. This is something that we wanted to say publicly, that if there's any contributors out there that aren't necessarily that energized or want to contribute specifically to the code through the good first issues or through any of the issues that they find on the repo, there's many different ways that you can contribute, and Kunal is kind of spearheading that. So we had a conversation this week. Also, C.O.M will be collaborating, and so stay tuned for the different content ideas that are coming out. One of the initiatives is going to be creating a public content plan that anybody can add to. So if you have any ideas of content that could be created around Komiser, around FinOps, around anything involving cloud transparency and potentially building on Komiser, feel free to add to it. We're really looking forward to seeing how we can collaborate together and get some ideas of going. So yeah, apart from that, in other community updates, this month we finally reached 45 contributors, and which is incredible for a project that is so young. There's a lot of us now. 45 is an incredible number. We hope to keep on adding to this and making sure that the contributors that come on and add value to Komiser are also reimbursed by giving them enough recognition and support to be able to reach their own personal goals. So thanks a million to all the 45 contributors that have helped the project so far, and we're just incredibly happy to continue working with you. I must say that if we were a team just working on a cloud offering, on a managed service, it would be almost without a doubt less fulfilling. It's really, really fulfilling to spend time with all the contributors. So thanks a million to that. And just so you know, if you are a contributor or you're someone who's thinking of becoming a contributor, feel free to check out the roadmap that we have set out here. A lot of you are already contributors, so I would definitely recommend for you to check out the route to get to become a maintainer. At the moment, C.O.M is the trailblazer here, but we would really, really love to see more people go into the maintainership, and there's a lot of people here that are well deserving of that. So I'm really looking forward to that. And so just in case you're someone who's still on your first or hasn't contributed yet, head on over to the good first issues, and you'll be able to find something more than likely cool to work on there. So in terms of, just before we move on to the content, I wanted to recognize another contributor here, and even though I haven't spoken to him, I wanted it to be a little bit of a surprise, but we already have our contributor of the month for June, and that person is Avinesh. So congratulations. This is probably news to you, Avinesh, but well done, well deserved. You have been doing so much great work in the resource dependency graph. I know it still hasn't been fully shipped, but that's because it's a complex feature that is really shaping out to be something of huge value. So good things take time, and we know that when it's ready, it's going to be absolutely incredible. The PR is already available, so if someone wants to grab the that branch and test it out locally, you'll see the great work that Avinesh has done so far. So stay tuned, because next week you'll be seeing a video of the contributor of the month. So congrats again for that, Avinesh. Cool. Moving on to the content. As I mentioned before, we had a couple of blog posts go out. The latest one was on the custom webhook integration. We had a great article also by Ali talking about effective design feedback and how the concept and practice of feedback is so crucial, and how it can really make or break a design process. At the start of the month, we also put together a blog post on just developing a simple, really just exploring a simple use case of a Next.js app that was then monitored by Komiser. Through this blog post, we saw that even the simplest application depends on more than a handful of resources in the cloud, and if that happens with a really simple application, just imagine when applications get a little bit more complex. So those cloud resources, you always want to be aware of them. You always want to be aware of the cost. So I think it's pretty clear to see the potential upside of using Komiser to measure and to track those cloud resources. So you can find those blogs on the Tailwarden on the Tailwarden blog. And we also had a few videos go out. As I said, the hands-on custom webhooks. We also had the contributor office hours for June. And we also had a series of shorts. Some shorts kind of taking snippets from previous conversations that we had, mainly with Victor Farsik, and more shorts to come in the coming weeks. Also, moving on, plans for July. Will more than likely make Tailwarden the AWS per resource cost calculation. So that's the integration with the cost and usage reports that Mohammed showcased, generally available. Hopefully that will be announced quite soon, and hopefully in July we'll have something to show for the in general availability for the resource dependency graph, the Komiser onboarding wizard, and further cost calculations for Komiser. And that's pretty much it. If there's anything that I've missed, please let me know in the chat. And I was just thinking, Avinesh, if you have any words that you'd like to say, feel free to jump on. Would you like to talk? I'm just gonna invite you to speak here if you want. Feel free. Nice. I think we want to.
Hey everyone,
I think we want to speech.
you all can hear me, right?
We can hear you.
Yeah, thank you so much for that surprise. I wasn't expecting that because the work is still going on the resource dependency graph. Me and the team, I'll say the Tailwarden team, we all are collaborating on it, so it's really fun. And Shubham, I am also looking for a treat from you. So we just cancel out our treats. Looking forward for that feature. As Shubham said, it's really good feature to have for Komiser, because it will give a lot of the users a lot of view to their resources, and that's what excited me to work on it. And yeah, looking forward to it. Thank you so much.
Incredible. Yeah, so in the video we'll have I'll ask you some more questions, and you can tell us a little bit more in depth about your process going through the creation of this feature. And yeah, we definitely wanted to recognize you so far, because I think like any open source project, there's no like real end to it, right? Like there's no moment that we're going to say, okay, it's absolutely perfect, don't touch Komiser as a tool, right? It's going to be an ongoing process, and that ongoing process also happens in the feature creation process. So the fact is that you've been doing some incredible work so far, even though it's not 100% ready to go. It's still worth recognizing. And yeah, if anyone is deserving of the contributor of the month, it's definitely you. So congrats again for that. And yeah, so thanks a million to everyone for joining. It's been a great month so far. Really looking forward to July. Have a great weekend and talk soon. Oh, yeah, and a friendly reminder that the Komiser Weekly is happening in just a few. So we'll see you all over there. All the best, everyone. Thanks a million. Bye-bye.